And ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to bring to you two very inspiring experts straight from their Disrupt TV studios. Please join me in welcoming Vala, Afshar, Chief Digital Evangelist, Salesforce, and Wang, Founder and CEO, Constellation Research. Prior to being the Chief Digital Evangelist, Vala was the Chief Marketing Officer, Extreme Networks. In addition, he's also an influencer and author and contributes weekly on technology, business, and leadership articles to Huffington Post, Inc. magazine, and other publications. He also co-hosts a weekly video show, Disrupt TV, inviting Fortune 1000 business executives, startup founders, venture capitalists, and tech and media personalities covering business, technology, and leadership topics. Ray is the co-host with Vala on Disrupt TV. He also is an influencer and an author. His groundbreaking best-selling book on digital transformation, Disrupting Digital Businesses, was published by Harvard Business Review Press. Over to you, Vala, and take it away.
Well, thank you so much for that incredibly kind introduction. Hello, Ray.
Hello, Vala. This is an unusual Disrupt TV. What are we doing?
It is. What an honor and privilege to be able to speak to incredible NASSCOM community. And if it's okay with you, let me start our conversation with, when you look back in the last 24 months, what's fundamentally changed about how business is conducted? And I say 24 months, from the start of the pandemic to today.
When we were thinking about this session, we were trying to figure out what were all these different themes, right? The great realignment, moving back to the new normal, we thought about all these changes. And I think you and I realized that something was important here. There was a great refactoring that's changing this. And it's our outlook, right? What do you want to accomplish as an individual? What do we want for our families? How do we expect our businesses to run? And what do we expect, from our governments, right? Or don't expect? And simply put, right? I mean, a monthly meeting, right? We would go into on a Monday to talk about what would happen last month. I mean, that's not even valid anymore, right? I mean, all these things have shifted, right? I mean, simple things like analytics, they have to be real time and predictive. We thought work from home was impossible, right? Like that would never happen. People would never be productive, right? And now we're like, oh, this is both great and it might not be as good. And what's the good and what's in the bad? And I think that's shifted. But for you, Vala, I mean, you've also looked at this different, right? Like we know businesses have shifted how they've operated, but can you summarize the impact of the pandemic on business, leadership, and innovation?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly the pandemic has served as an accelerant to innovation, IT transformation, software, hardware, technologies. In a light switch, I would say probably March of 2020, so about 23 months ago, we went to a decentralized world. For many, many months, for some of us who didn't have physical dependency in terms of our work, we went to a digital-only decentralized world. And I would argue today, 2 years later, we're in a kind of a digital first and still continuing to be decentralized world. What that did is it also extended the boundaries of businesses. You didn't go to a headquarters or office space. You were no longer tethered to a desk. So the boundaries of businesses extended to our living rooms for the last 2 years. Now, for many organizations and countries and sectors, this notion of boundless ecosystem is an incredible advantage. What's created out of this construct is a war for talent. Now that you can work from anywhere and deliver value everywhere, this extended boundaries is going to really create potential talent wars. And so which countries are well poised to take advantage of this boundless ecosystem? India is one of them. India is the talent capital of the world. You have an incredible large number of bright young talent that have the right education and the right ethics to beat competitors. I think in 2021, annually in 2021, India produces million engineers on an annual basis. And we also see equality taking place in this boundless ecosystem. We're seeing more women engineers and STEM graduates enter the workforce. We saw over 3 million women students graduating with undergraduate degrees in India, and there's about in 2019, and there's been a 20% increase to present day. So equality, affordable education, access, all of that. What that means, Ray, is we've experienced a 10-year acceleration of culture and digital transformation. 10 years in the last 22 months. And the currencies that matter in this boundless, decentralized digital ecosystem is speed, it's personalization, it's scale. So businesses have to find ways to create value at the speed of need. And fortunately for countries and businesses in India, they are well poised to do that. And if you look at the last 22 months, Ray, it's been banner year in terms of technology and innovation in India.
That's amazing. I mean, we are seeing that. And speaking about and keeping on the India topic, right? I mean, you and I have been following this India market for at least 3 decades, right? We've witnessed how India's IT community, including many of the people here, have been responsible for keeping the world's technology and businesses running during the first wave, during the third wave. I mean, we've got some incredible stories. I mean, what are these that come to mind? What lessons have we learned?
India is also known as Bharut, and I believe the meaning is those who are striving for illumination, highest human perfection, irrespective of differences of race, nationality, religion, gender. I'm an immigrant refugee, so I love this spirit of generosity and giving, and we saw that more than ever in the last 2 years, as you mentioned. Technology companies who are NASSCOM members, donated hundreds of millions of dollars to frontline healthcare providers who are combating the pandemic, and helping us get back to some sense of normalcy. We saw tech companies in India convert their kitchens into, a place where you can deliver food. Millions of meals were delivered to communities. We saw tech companies in India donate ambulances. We saw them convert their R&D facilities into hospitals, literally providing an opportunity for us to combat and fight, the pandemic. So, and we also saw government leaders and business leaders working closely at the very start to create more flexible options for individuals that can work from home, where physical dependency was not an issue given the technology that we have today. So this incredible collaborative fighting spirit was in action, and the entire world saw how the IT sector in India worked together, with private, public, government worked together to really ensure the health and safety of stakeholders, and at the same time reopenings that were safe. And now, if you look at last year, I mean, an incredible banner year for technologists in India. So we got the strongest IT service company brands are now in India. 5 of the 10 most valuable brands in India in terms of IT services is India. And so that sense of purpose and love for the community was felt by all, and it actually influenced countries and companies outside of India, and so US companies now deeply care about India's success. My company, Salesforce, and our partner ecosystem could generate $66 billion of new revenue and 1.3 million new jobs in India, according to IDC's 2021 independent research. So again, companies like Salesforce and others were all inspired, and now we want to create partnerships with the technology sector in India, because that's the home of innovation. And you've been writing about this, you've been speaking around the world. What are some of the trends you're seeing from the pandemic that will carry over, not just this year, but Ray, for the next 10 years?
Definitely. And we see some mega trends around the world that impact this. Before we talk about the futures, we'll talk about some of the trends that hit now. But global public health investment, right? Many people probably don't know. I have a master's in public health from Johns Hopkins, and I've never seen this much investment in people's health, in people's advancements in their livelihoods in terms of what would happen. And we'll see that extend, right? And what means from health, from mental health to what's happening in terms of your physical health, in terms of your opportunities, your lifespan, that's going to be an area that people look at. The second thing is we realized how important a organization's mission and values are, right? And what you stand for. And you could see that inside corporations and organizations and enterprises in the middle of the pandemic. Those companies that really did care for their people, their employees, their communities stood out. Those were the companies and entities that succeeded and did well. And then, of course, work-life balance. I mean, you and I work crazy hours all the time. And what work-life balance is, we've learned that, you can actually do a better job of this. I think we've all learned that we could do a better job. I had the opportunity to spend the last 2 years with my son before he went to university. And to me, that is never going to come back. That was amazing. And I think you had that same experience as well, Vala, for your daughter. It's pretty amazing, right? And then on the technology front, it's fun, right? I mean, we've seen the ability to take things like cloud and data and analytics, automation and AI and create new things. And we're about to see what some of those new worlds look like. But I think that was kind of exciting. But we should also take the time to talk about where we are today. We've looked back on where the pandemic is, what's going on. And in fact, we should talk about the state of the state, the booming economy of India. I mean, let's look at this. India is playing a crucial role in the global tech and business economy. I've noticed you've been keeping track of these developments, some interesting stats, some what's been going on. What comes to mind? What are some of the things that just stick out when you think about what's been happening here?
Well, I track the progress of innovation technology in India because my company has thousands of employees that work in India, and we're continuing to heavily invest in growth of our footprint in India. And I had the privilege of looking at an incredible research from NASSCOM that summarized last year, 2021, progress in the technology sector, specifically looking at entrepreneurs in the tech space and startups. Ray, I want to share some of these stats, and I think all of our audience need to understand when we talk about an unforgettable year in terms of technology startups in India. Last year, 42 unicorns, which was almost four times greater than the year before. So we're looking at about 2250, over 2,000 tech startups founded. Now, this is in a base of about 26,000 tech startups in India. $24 billion funded. Again, that's 3 times more than 2020, so 3 times more. We also saw, January of this year. So we're thinking, is this momentum, this unbelievable momentum going to get carried over this year? Just in January, there's been $3.5 billion across 130 deals that have been invested. Just January 2022. So, it appears that 2022 could be another banner year for India, for home of startups and unicorns. So India is home to innovation. So that's clearly what we saw. We also saw, when we're talking about boundless ecosystem, you saw ecosystem becoming more inclusive and diverse. Almost 1 in 3 of the tech startups were based outside of the established hubs in India. So this notion of boundlessness. Again, you can work from anywhere, you can produce innovation from everywhere. And another incredible thing in terms of expanding boundaries and how that helps foster equality, 15% of the tech startups had at least one woman founder, co-founder. So we're seeing incredible equality and innovation. That, on top of the generosity spirit, the Barut spirit that I talked about, has also intensified corporations investing in India. You saw 260 unique corporations active in the 2021 funding. Of course, that led to an incredible M&A pace. We saw 180 mergers and acquisitions in just 2021, Ray, and 66% of the acquisitions led by Indian startups, which was amazing. So when you look at all this activity, which is a groundbreaking innovation that happened last year, NASSCOM team working with entrepreneurs have also projected what we can expect to see in the next 3 years, 2025. Ray, listen to these numbers. Where the projections show we could reach 37,000 tech startups in the next 3 years by 2030. 37,000. Unicorn pool could go somewhere between 180 to 200 unicorns by 2025. So that means that as far as industry valuations, you could see 600 to 700 billion dollars of new evaluations. And of course, recent announcements with full support of the government. The goal is to have the service exports reach $1 trillion in India, already a $3.2 trillion economy. So, what an example of the human spirit, the toughest 2 years of our lifetime, where, we've had incredible hardship, incredible number of, deaths around the world. In the US, we just crossed 900,000. And yet you have an economy that's thriving and growing because it was purpose-led, it was mission-led, and it was community-led. It was people-first, digital-first community. And it's really, a country serves as a role model for the rest of the world. And I think that's clearly what we're seeing. Tell me about the fact of the trends that you see, because you are advising many of the business leaders of many of the companies we're talking about. So in addition to this explosive growth of the startup ecosystems, the IPOs that were successful, 11 IPOs, and the M&A activities, what are you seeing as key trends?
It's a great point, right? I mean, that spirit of innovation that's going on here is important. And we see it in so many shifts, right? We see a shift from services to productization of offerings, right? I mean, some of the greatest ideas in terms of product, services, and offerings are now being created here. We're seeing a shift from product engineering to game-changing innovation, anything from med devices to what's happening with healthcare to what's happening in financial services, right? We're seeing a shift from operations and maintenance to design and build the front end of thinking about what happens. We're also seeing a shift from, following to leading in strategy, coming up with those new ideas, those new innovations that are changing the world, just like in the startups you've been talking about. And we're also seeing a shift from responding to trends and now driving the market, right? So what we see is India-led companies are now taking charge. They have a confidence, but not an arrogance about their place on the world stage. This is the new spirit of India, and we see it here. And when we talk about where that future is and what we're talking about the next set, I mean, it's amazing to see where we're going to go.
I love that. It's confidence and not arrogance. So I want your put your future hat on and take me 10 years from now. But when we looked at the top 10 strongest IT service brands in the world, 5 were from India. TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, and Tech Mahindra, to be specific. And the brand value of IT service companies for 2022, India ranks number 2 in the world with the brand value at $46 billion. Number 1 is US at $66 billion. France is number 3 at $12 billion. So when you see the gap between number 3 and number 2, this is really, when it comes to IT services, it's US and India. And so do you see this gap staying in India, staying at 2 and possibly even challenging US for the number 1 spot?
If I put on my hat, I would say that there's going to be a lot of consolidation in the next couple of years. Part of the reason is there is that war for talent that we've been talking about. And you could see some mid-tier players combine together to form and challenge some of the IT majors. You could see some
a million new graduates a year, engineering graduates a year, Ray.
And the number of
PhDs.
And the number of PhDs, I mean, it's crazy, right? And so the talent that's being produced in India is amazing. And we're going to see, maybe the majors might get clubbed together and they could create an opportunity to take on some of the bigger US giants. But in any case, right, we're seeing that massive talent here, and we're seeing a lot of opportunity, not just for people working here, but just for the innovation engines that IT jobs create all across the world. So.
Okay, so let's stick to the futurist theme. What are some of the themes you're seeing? Not just, we did a recap of, okay, we now have a global power in terms of innovation and talent when we look at the progress in India in the last 2 years, which is really impacting and influencing all businesses around the globe in terms of, again, leading with confidence but not arrogance, and being inclusive and really being purposeful and mission-led. So talk to us about the themes that all business leaders, especially technology business leaders, need to have in mind when we look at the next 10 years.
So we've got about a dozen trends. We've taken 7 that are important. We use a framework that we call PESTLE. We look at the politics, the economics, what's happening on the society side, technology, environment, of course, and the legislative aspects. And we see massive tensions continuing with China, whether it's supply chains or zero COVID or geopolitical tensions. And I think we have to take that into account. That's something that's in the background that may impact your business, right? Whether you're getting chips, whether you're being able to actually move routes and supply chain, where you're worried about what's happening. We also see population dynamics, right? We've got aging democracies and vibrant new economies. And it means like countries like India are going to be both an economic and technology powerhouse. And how does that, what does that mean, right? Where do investments occur? Where are the new tech, innovations that are going to be happening? What are the new trends? We also see this metaverse economy, something that we've been talking about. We're super excited about.
Metaverse economy.
Exactly. 21 trillion by 2030. And this is going to encompass most of the global economy. Now, to put this in perspective, the 640 tech companies publicly traded around the world are worth about 23 trillion today. Let's be honest, it was 26 in November, but it's about 23 trillion today. And it's going to encompass everything. And when we talk about metaverse, it's not just gaming and worlds. It's, what's happening for the enterprise. And we look at just the layers of metaverse, right? Where you kind of touch things, where you can immerse, right? We're talking about the DAOs, which are the brains and the formation and how value exchange and tokenization occur. We talk about crypto and Web 3.0. All those technologies are coming together to form something bigger. And then, of course, mindful pathways to ESG. This is important, right? Sustainability reporting, that's just the beginning, right? But what's going to happen is, what are the impacts to our daily lives? How do we progress in a pragmatic approach so that it doesn't take out the economy while achieving clean goals? We have to find that balance. And I think that's going to happen when we look at sustainability, circular economies, when we look at diversity, when we think about how we actually bring new voices. That's all going to shift. And then, of course, you talked a little about this, Vala, humanizing the digital world, right? Augmented humanity becomes a reality, right? As we move closer towards a singularity. And that's important to understand. We're not going to jump in there right away. Those neural links that Elon Musk is talking about, brainwave APIs. I mean, it's going to get there, but we're also going to have to do it with ethics. We also going to have to do it in a very purpose-led approach. And then, of course, how do we find harmony between the centralized closed systems of the world and decentralized open models? They're going to be that continued tug of war that we often see. And then the last one is something you and I both hold near and dear. Privacy as a basic human right. It should not be a luxury for the rich. How do we take that privacy, turn it into property, right? It's a property, then we actually have rules that govern it. That means that you need permission, right? You need to have that permission. When you do have that, what's the value exchange for that permission? So those are the big trends that we're seeing out there. And we think that's important. Now, while we've got those trends there, but let's talk about between now and 2030. I mean, what are the topics you're seeing when you talk to business leaders, Vala? You talk to hundreds or thousands of them a year, in your world as a digital evangelist. What's going on between now and 2030?
Yeah, I mean, certainly all of the technologies you mentioned are on their roadmaps, are actively being invested and funded and resourced. But woven in your 7 themes all touch core values and guiding principles. Business leaders today are intensely focused. They're deliberate about making sure that the core values and guiding principles and the mission of the company is well understood by the stakeholders, employees, customers, partners, communities. And it's about stakeholder success, not so much shareholder of the past, but stakeholder. And, employee experience plays a key role. Again, obviously, in the last 22 months, business leaders understand the importance of mental health and the fact that we're all struggling. Don't kid yourself. No matter where you are, no matter how successful your company, the challenges we face in the last 2 years, both at home and at work, means we're all struggling. We're all struggling. So values are top of mind, and it's really to create a culture where you can create value at the speed of need. And so it starts with trust. Trust must be your number one core value. At my company, Salesforce, a fairly successful, growing company, trust has been our number one core value since inception, followed by customer success, innovation, and equality. And regarding customer experience, so much research that we've done shows that the customer experience is as important as your company's products and services. You could build a better product and still lose to a competitor who's delivering a better customer experience. And at the same time, research has shown that if you want to improve the customer experience, you start with the employee experience. Do you have the right flexible culture? Do you have empathy? Do you have the right tool set? Do you have the right lean processes where people have autonomy and ability to be creative, to be able to serve stakeholders without needing permission to do so? And that goes into investing in training and, again, creating the right atmosphere. The ability to create value at the speed of need also has a technology element to it. Yes, you need the right culture, the right people, the right process and technology, but your tech stack has to be designed for movement. That's how you achieve optimal speed. So adoption of cloud computing is an example of how you create an environment designed for movement. So to summarize, core values is top of mind of all business leaders I think about. Growth is, of course, top of mind of all. But you really can't achieve growth unless you have the right culture, the right people, the right process, and the right investments in technology and partnerships. So, the world has become, in my view, a bit more empathetic last 2 years. And it is about confidence grounded in humility and in having a beginner's mindset and wanting to ensure stakeholder success. So, okay, Ray. Let's talk about, again, what are your closing thoughts and comments in terms of what would you recommend to business leaders who are listening to us now in terms of as an accomplished futurist, as a thinker, and as someone who helps guide companies to growth and successful future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, right? When we think about this new great refactoring, let's look at it as a great refactoring. Why, we've actually
instead of great resignation. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is back to that positivity that, we look at, right? Why is it important, right? We're moving from a culture of scarcity to a culture of abundance, right? We have to actually act in that way. We have to think about, the way we treat our people and, when it makes sense, right? You don't want to put people on mindless, boring work. That's where automation is going to play a role. But how do we teach people? How do we help them learn so that they can identify the patterns and predict where that future is going? We also have to think about, back to your point on trust, it's not just trust in general, it's the fact and how we actually interact with each other. And that's where mindfulness becomes important. How do we put this in place? How do we actually work from a position of empathy? And of course, how do we create opportunities for the next generation, right? After 24 months of watching dystopian sci-fi movies, you think the world is going to fall apart, right? We've got to figure out a way to change that. And so I think those are part of it. But, there's something I want to bring up. I saw this on Twitter. I heard about it from other folks. Vala, you've recently been recognized during this past Republic Day by the Prime Minister for your positivity and social media presence, right? And this is an important piece as we're talking about mental health, we're talking about culture and what happens. How do you stay positive? How do you stay positive? What inspires you? Because I always talk about your inspirational and tweets that go out there. It is a source of, joy around the world.
Ray, thank you for saying that. Receiving a letter from Prime Minister Modi on the 73rd anniversary of Republic Day was truly an honor and a super humbling experience, a memory I'll never forget. The letter is going in a frame and it's going to be in my library. So, look, you and I host a weekly show for 6 years. We've interviewed over 800 guests because we want to learn and we want to be inspired. So you and I are very fortunate. Every week we're in front of the best and brightest minds in the world. We had Debjani go on our show, and she just expanded our minds to the nth degree. So, in the past 2 years, we've seen the greatest level of grit and persistence and teamwork and generosity and fighting spirit in the world, led by countries like India. So I honestly believe in the long run, the future is created by the optimists. It's my own work experience for the last 20 some odd years. And as I said, we're all struggling. You and I are not alone. So what we need now more than ever is humility, honesty, kindness, generosity, inclusivity, empathy, and pragmatic optimism. So we got to work together to create a better future. This is why you and I have, traveled to India, presented in NASSCOM, because when we're there, we're surrounded by optimists, by honest, generous, incredible minds. And so together, I think we can create a better future. And I have to tell you, that letter from the Prime Minister will motivate me for the next 10 plus years, or maybe a lifetime. So thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for bringing it up. Okay, can we do a
quick?
Yes.
Please. All right, let's do lightning round.
Okay.
Very, very cool.
I'll go ahead.
You kick off. You kick off if you want.
Your favorite destination that you want to visit in India. The next destination.
Okay, now this is crazy. All right. I have been to India probably 40 times, 50 times, right? I have never been to Agra. I've never been to the Taj Mahal. This is the funniest thing. Like, I need to go land in New Delhi. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I should have been there by now, but I have not been to Agra. So that's on my list. One of these things. I've seen lots of fun things, from the beaches of Goa to, the backwaters of Kerala to, Chennai to get some great seafood to, I've almost made my way to Tibet. I have not been to Agra. It is crazy. So what about you? What's on your list?
When is the next time? When is the next time you see yourself?
As soon as they let me through. So what about you? What's your favorite destination?
I would like to go back to Mumbai. I had an incredible time at the NASSCOM Technology Leadership Forum pre-pandemic. We have offices there. Hyderabad, we have offices. I have thousands of colleagues in India, work at Salesforce, that I would love to visit, break bread, and collaborate with. And some of our biggest business partners in the world are sprinkled throughout the country. So yeah, but I would say Mumbai would probably be what I would like to go back and see. Okay, your favorite Netflix binge watching, which has been something that it brings mindfulness for me. What have you been watching?
There have been so many great shows, right? But one of the things that really caught my attention was Coda Factory. And for those watching, I'm sure everybody here knows it, right? I mean, it's been amazing watching these, IT, these graduates really compete, right, in terms of what's going on. And I thought that was interesting watching, in terms of understanding how candidates are out there, how they actually, get through the exams. And it was kind of fun. It was like a reality TV show meets, what's happening in tech in India. And, I'm on season 1. I got to get to season 2. So what about you? What are you watching?
Ted Lasso. I played sports. I love teamwork. I love coachability, being coachable. And so Ted Lasso is highly recommended for me. And I just want to take this time to thank the NASSCOM audience for giving Ray and I an opportunity to have a conversation. You educate, inspire, and ignite positivity in both of us. And Ray, your closing remarks. And thank you again.
No, same here. Look, I've had the, opportunity, privilege, and I'm very thankful for always being able to present in front of NASSCOM. I always learn something new, right? I'm looking forward to next year when we get a chance to actually meet in person, connect with everyone. This great refactoring is real. There's a huge opportunity in India to actually lead in the world and continue leading. And I see that, and that's what gets us excited. But thank you so much for having us here. And of course, thank you for all watching Disrupt TV.
Back to you, Shreya.
Thank you, Vala and Ray. What an articulate eye-opener, and what fun and frolic the mood of that conversation. You sure added some life to the session with your disruptive thinking. We're excited to note that you're looking to create partnerships with Technology Selective India, because that's the home of innovation. As we're experiencing a transition from a digital-only decentralized world to a digital-first decentralized world, truly changing the boundaries of businesses, equality, affordable education, and access are heightened in this boundless, decentralized world that Ray and Vala spoke beautifully about.